Welcome back, guys, to my channel. I am now going through the process of painting the kokeshi doll that I carved in the first video. As you can see here, I am laying down a primer surfacer to kind of get rid of any of the little blemishes or tool marks that I may have missed with the sanding process. Going through and painting everything, trying to get an even coat as much as possible. At least I ended up going over this twice. This was my second time actually using an airbrush. I ended up clogging my airbrush and ended up spending the next 2 hours unclogging it. Here I go again with the round 2 on trying to apply this surfacer to the kokeshi doll body and trying to make as little mess as possible and failing at it, as you can see. Once I get started again, I ended up putting that second coat on. Once it was dry, I untaped the head and started with the first coat of black on the hair. Same thing, just a black primer surfacer to kind of fill in any of the gaps so that the next coat of paint would go on smooth. Off camera, I then masked all the pieces that I didn't want to be that I weren't part of the it's all part of the robe. I masked the flowers that are going to be a different color and the bow and the belt. I then went with a black paint and kind of painted in all the creases where all the folds of the clothes will be. That will be a little bit darker than the lighter spots. I then went with a blue, just a basic blue. It looks a little dark here because of the black paint, and I go then and start doing a base coat on the kimono itself. Once I've applied the base coat, I then move to a lighter paint and start painting the main body of the kimono, trying to avoid a little bit of the creases in the clothes as much as possible and just painting in the open flat areas to give the robes and the folds in the clothes a little bit of depth. I went a little bit too far here and mixed in a little bit of white and blue paint to try to get some of just the highlights. I feel like I went a little bit too far with the highlights, so here shortly I move back to a darker blue and try to get some of that darkness, that rich color back. This was a little bit of a back and forth process till I got some results that I liked. Then I masked the opposite. I unmasked the flowers and then I masked up the blue that I just painted. Now I'm moving forward with a basic red paint, which is going to act like the black paint for the kimono. It's going to be seen as kind of the darkest color of the color scheme. I'm going to be doing a 3-color gradient on this. So I'm going to move forward with the red into an orange and then finally a yellow in the center. I think it gives it a nice kind of a sunset effect without one paint actually being darker than the others. I think in the future, maybe mixing a little bit of black or white paint to really make the colors pop will definitely be an option. As I said before, I'm kind of getting used to the airbrush here and trying to get these gradients as smooth as possible. Once I took off the mask, I realized that I missed one flower, so here I am going back and painting the flower along with the ribbons in the front of the hair right next to the face. All in all, I did several hours of masking off camera that you don't really see here, but I think it worked out really well in the end. Here I am touching up the edges where the mask was covering. There was a little bit of overlap where some of the paint didn't get through, so I just went with the fine brush, some more of the airbrush paint just to keep everything matching, and just went through and painted in the creases to try to clean up that edge a little bit. Once I finally cleaned up the edges, as you can see, all the flowers and everywhere there was the change in color, I needed to clean up those edges. I then went and tried to touch up a little bit of where the flower petals were and try to get some nice crisp lines on where the transitioning colors were on the opposite side as well. And there it is, step one complete. And now I will be moving forward with the regular traditional acrylic paints. I went and painted the feet, the sandals black, just to keep that the wood really light color contrast with the black sandals. I think the contrast came out really nice. I then filled in the hair. Since it was really black, I went through with a burnt umber brown and started painting over the top of it to give it a nice deep brown color. And then I went with a little bit lighter brown to try to catch where usually like the light hits the hair the most and lighten it up a little bit so it looks more like a light brown hair than a jet black hair. Continuing to add layers of paint, gradually lightening up the hair, making it look a little bit lighter. Now I'm adding a top ribbon to the hair. Which is matching the trim of the kimono, just to keep the colors coordinated. Now I'm moving forward with a little bit of dry brushing. I went with a really light brown on a dry brush and just started trying to catch the highlights of all the detail that I added onto the hair carving. Then I went with a little bit of red to also match that red color variation that I had going on in the kimono. Now I'm going with a little bit of a red and brown wash to add a little bit of depth to the flowers so you can really see those creases pop. As I'm adding the wash, I also add a little bit of wash to the ribbon to really get in those creases and really adds so you can really see the detail of the carving. Once I have finished doing the wash, I now move on to painting the face, which I find to be the most delicate portion of this. A lot of the brushing I did before can easily be corrected or fixed, but the face is really the amount of, I would say precision it would take to make the face, as you have to do the eyes in 1 or 2 strokes. I definitely had some issues with this. As you will see here in the video, I went through and made the eyes multiple times. I then had to sand it off because I didn't like it, and then redo it. I also added a mouth that ended up really changing the face, and ended up taking it out entirely. So as you can see, I sanded off the original face. I then made the eye to kind of make sure to get it as symmetrical as possible. And then again, I attempted the mouth a second time. And as you'll see here shortly, I ended up scrapping the mouth and just keeping the eyes and nose. As you can see here, I am repainting the mouth. And again, did not like how it came out, so I ended up getting rid of it. And here I go again with a third attempt, which I believe was my final attempt, and ended up getting rid of it. Well, thank you for watching. As you can see here, the final product, no mouth, but I do think the face came out pretty charming. And please leave a comment and tell me what you think, and I will see you guys on the next video.